And welcome, everyone, to Redacted on this Wednesday. I'm Clayton Morris.
I'm Natalie Morris.
And on this show, we cover the stories the mainstream media largely ignores. There's a lot of protests happening in Ukraine right now against the dictator Zelensky there. Are we about to see another CIA-backed coup? This is all smelling very, very fishy. Why are tens of thousands of people taking to the streets demanding that he leave? And, of course, a big vote there in Ukraine this morning, which basically allows corruption to run rampant. We're going to look at the very latest on that, and is the CIA sort of angling to replace him? We're going to talk about that.
Plus, the House of Representatives decided they don't want to vote on Epstein disclosure, so they're just not going to come to work this week. They decided this was supposed to be their last week before a summer break, but they don't want to. Imagine if you could do that. You just don't feel like it. You don't like the job you've been tasked with, so you don't show up. Must be nice. It's all right for some.
Yeah, in fact, so Congressman Thomas Massie is going to join us here on the show.
I forgot to say the most important part. That's right.
Yes, he's going to do that. And then also John Kiriakou is going to join us, former CIA whistleblower, of course, vilified by the Obama administration. He's going to weigh in on Ukraine. We're also going to talk about Colbert canceled and the fallout from all of that. You're seeing mainstream media outlets freaking out about Stephen Colbert being canceled, and The View is crying about it. You know what, though,
Clayton? It's really hard right now for West Coast, East Coast media elites.
It is.
They need our tears and prayers.
Well, The View called it a threat to democracy that they're canceling. They're canceling Colbert.
I mean, think of this. Children are literally dying from diarrhea in Gaza right now. And this is the cross they're going to die on right now. This is what they're really worried about is Stephen Colbert's free speech. I mean, no one's saying he can't speak. He just can't speak anymore to lose money on CBS, right? Imagine the world we live in and you're like, oh, my God. Coastal media elites must be saved.
It's so sad. Ellen DeGeneres moving to England. It's so terrible. All of it. Anyway, we're going to talk about all of that and more. We're going to talk about Zelensky. Is he finished? What is next for Ukraine? This is all happening, by the way, as President Putin is launching a new offensive into Ukraine. We are seeing the last days here, but we'll get to that in a second. But first,
we want to tell you about our friends over at Hillsdale College. They are a sponsor of Redacted, and we are very appreciative of it. And you can support them by giving yourself education. Hillsdale offers so many free online courses to allow you to be a lifelong learner, which is something we all value together. You wouldn't be here on Redacted if you weren't, right? And so when you use phrases like, oh, that's unconstitutional, well, what does that mean? You can take a free online course called The Federalist. The Federalist Papers, primarily written by two of America's most important founding fathers, Alexander Hamilton and James Madison. Well, together they can explain how the U.S. Constitution established a government strong enough to secure the rights of citizens and safe enough to wield that power. Well, as we see these rights eroded, we need to understand the foundation on which they are built. So it's a great way to boost your education about this kind of thing. Now, there are many such courses on Hillsdale. And again, they are self-paced. You can take them whenever you want at whatever pace. And so many of them are free. So right now, head on over to hillsdale.edu/redacted to enroll. There's no cost. It's easy to get started. One more time, that's hillsdale.edu/redacted to enroll for free and check out not just the Federalist course, but their buffet of courses as well. That's hillsdale.edu/redacted.
All right, let's talk about Ukraine. Revolution in Ukraine this afternoon as Ukraine's government appears close to collapse. Some are calling this a second Maidan coup. Of course, the first Maidan coup was created by the CIA, installed a Western-backed puppet government there. Thousands of protesters taking to the streets this weekend to protest Ukrainian dictator Zelensky's latest power grab. Of course, he's already canceled elections. So why now? Look at all of these people that want him out of there. But of course, the mainstream media in America will never show you this. Like, really? Like thousands of people? That's like the same thing. They'll never show you the thousands of people protesting Netanyahu in Israel, of course, because it goes against their narrative. Why now? Well, Zelensky was moving to destroy the independence of Ukraine's two key anti-corruption institutions. So they have two institutions who try to root out corruption. Basically, Zelensky wanted to get rid of it. Yeah, you heard me right. Like, we're going to close down the institutions that prevent corruption in our country. So Ukraine is the most corrupt government in all of Europe, as you guys know. And these two anti-corruption institutions were the only thing keeping some kind of corruption out of the country. And Zelensky wanted it gone. So this morning, he signed this into law. against the protesters in his streets.
How good do you think this anti-corruption body was?
Well, I mean, look, they are the most corrupt country in all of Europe.
Right.
So not good.
Correct.
But at least it was something, right?
Couldn't you just let them keep doing a shit job?
I don't know. Well, he has a reason for it, which we'll get to in a second. So Zelensky speaks out about this, and he says, so he signed this bill into law. The new law gives the country's top prosecutor, who's a close ally of Zelensky, control over the two most powerful anti-corruption institutions in the country. So now, oh, really? You're going to look at Zelensky's corruption? Of course not, because it's his closest friend is now running these things. Of course, critics say it's a major blow to Ukraine's fight against corruption, a huge step backwards for democracy. This country is not a democracy. It's run by a dictator. That means the prosecutor general, who is appointed by the president, can now totally control, can totally delay, or even shut down investigations led by these agencies. We don't like it. We don't like that you're looking into where all of the money went, where these arms deals came from, and who did you sell American weapons to. We can shut it down. We don't even have to look at it.
The equivalent of President Trump, to his credit, during his first administration, allowed the Mueller investigation to go forward. Now, he did many times say he wanted to shut it down, but he never did. He let it run his course. Now, what would have happened if he had shut down the Mueller investigation? It would have been full-on uproar. This is how we rightfully would have felt had he done this. So that's the equivalency right now, is we don't like any kind of investigation into power. Nope, shut down.
Well, now Zelensky, to his credit, is blaming all of the reason that he's voting on this. He's blaming it, of course, who do you think? On Russia. So it's Russia's fault that he had to vote for this anti-corruption move. Watch.
Ще одне. Говорив з керівником НАБУ.
So if you're listening on the podcast, he says, one more thing. I had to speak with the head of the SBU, prosecutor of the administration offenses, Prosecutor General Ruslaном
Кравченком,
head of the security service of Ukrainian Vasil Malyok. Various challenges. We discussed all of this. The anti-corruption infrastructure will work only without Russian influences. Everything needs to be cleaned up from this, and there should be no more justice. Of course, NABU and SAPO will work, and it's important that the Prosecutor General is determined to ensure that the inevitability of punishment is actually ensured in Ukraine. Okay, enough of that guy. So yeah, it's Russia. It's Russia's fault. That's why he had to take control.
So your anti-corruption agency, when it investigated corruption, couldn't tell the difference between Russian interference and real corruption? It just wasn't sure?
No, it just didn't.
You can't be. So I guess they couldn't have been that good, Clayton.
No, they
apparently
they
not.
They obviously arrested the Russian agents, right? I mean, there's evidence of that, because if they found them there and knew they were there,
yeah. So if there's Russian agents working in your anti-corruption, I mean, okay. So, but now, don't worry though, corruption will be nipped in the bud, because now Zelensky has taken control of this. He's put his best friend in charge, and they've rooted out Russian corruption. This is not sitting well in Washington. News outlets across America, including Wall Street Journal and the Financial Times in Europe, say this is a huge mistake. Watching the protests, Marjorie Taylor Greene got a good throw, said basically throw the bum out. Huge protests erupt in Kiev against Ukrainian President Zelensky, as he, as a dictator, refuses to make peace deal and end the war. Good for the Ukrainian people. Throw him out of office, and America must stop funding and sending weapons. Hallelujah to that. Meanwhile, sanctions. We got sanctions now. The dipshits in the EU have announced its most significant sanctions yet, again, against Russia, as well as against countries that continue to do business with Moscow, all in an effort to damage the Russian economy. Something that hasn't worked in the past, but now it's going to work.
Mm-hmm. It keeps damaging European economy, but they're just going to keep doing it. You know, they hate you if you are a citizen of the EU. So they're willing to take your money, send it into this war, stop any real trade with Russia, and continue to devalue the euro. Sure.
So the new sanctions include lowering the price cap on Russian crude oil, ensuring it remains 15% below the international market trade. That's the plan. Additionally, according to the Wall Street Journal, the EU plans to target companies from other countries that help export Russian crude oil below and using this sort of shadow fleet of vessels. Because they were able to basically put all this crude oil on ships and send it right to India and kind of go all around these sanctions. It didn't stop them one bit. This, of course, will do nothing to end the war, as you know. Instead, it will mainly hurt the European nations, imposing them, particularly Germany, whose manufacturing industry depends heavily on cheap energy from Russia. As we've seen before, and we've said before, continuing to support the corrupt government of Ukraine is fueling protests across Europe. Huge protests in Poland over the past few days against Ukrainian immigrants there, stopping the immigration flow into that country. It's giving rise to political parties like the AfD in Germany. They're saying enough of this. They're gaining ground, particularly around the Ukraine war and all of this insanity. So we will continue to watch what's happening in Ukraine. And we're going to speak with John Kiriakou, CIA whistleblower, in just a few minutes on this story.
All right. Well, President Obama says that the accusations against him are nonsense and that Russia did work to interfere in the 2016 election. He didn't really provide any proof. He just said that these accusations are ridiculous. Like when you don't want to have an argument, but you've been accused of something where there is legitimate concern. That's ridiculous. That's basically what he said. Because we know now Russia did not interfere in the 2016 election. Even our own intelligence under Obama refuted that. And anyone who thinks that that still was a thing is only digging into the evidence with a teaspoon and not a shovel. You clearly just don't want to see. Even newly released documents show that Obama's own intelligence pooed on that idea. But Obama's official response from his spokesperson was, out of respect for the office of the presidency, our office does not normally dignify the constant nonsense and misinformation flowing out of this White House with the response. That, I have a lot of problems with that sentence. Like, out of respect for the presidency, I'm going to call him nonsense. Everything he says is nonsense. That's not very respectful. I don't understand that, but okay, let's just leave the grammar out of that. Anyway, he says these claims are outrageous, bizarre, blah, blah, blah. What he fails to mention, again, is that his own administration did spy on the Trump administration, did knowingly promote the false Trump-Russia narrative as a political weapon. Instead, he just says, ridiculous without addressing the facts. Head of DNI, Tulsi Gabbard, held a press conference this morning, and she laid out in explicit detail how the CIA's Brennan and FBI colluded to push the fake Steele dossier. And again, I think it's worth remembering because most people don't talk about this. Christopher Steele was hot off of a job trying to prove Russia collusion in the FIFA World Cup and failed to do so. So just replicated that on the stage of American politics. It's literally the dumbest thing ever. It was like, well, I couldn't prove Russian corruption there. Let me just go over to, let me try to prove it on the continent in the country of America. Here's what Tulsi Gabbard had to say.
Brennan and the IC misled lawmakers by referencing the debunked Steele dossier to assess, quote unquote, Russia's plans and intentions, falsely suggesting that this dossier had intelligence value when he knew that it was discredited. The intelligence community excluded significant intelligence and ignored or selectively quoted reliable intelligence that contradicted the intelligence community assessment's key findings on Putin's alleged support for Trump. Including this intelligence reporting would have exposed the ICA's claim as implausible, if not ridiculous.
No, she says she's going to refer this to the Justice Department, and then it will be up to the Justice Department to see if there's something worth indicting. If they do, it's possible that a grand jury doesn't go for it. It's possible that a judge throws it out. It feels very much like... We knew this. It's good to see the official government unpeeling this onion because we've known it already. But, it's still playing out in such a partisan way. Unfortunately, it does very much feel like a distraction unless something happens. I wish that we learned about this with indictments, solid indictments, rather than Fox News appearances and press releases and things like that. But nevertheless, those of us who've been looking into Russian collusion for over almost a decade now know this. So, okay, now at least we all know this.
Well, perhaps more shocking, though, is what Tulsi said about Hillary Clinton today. Because we were asking yesterday, like, where's Hillary Clinton in all of this? Well, the President Obama knew that Russian President Putin had actually had blackmail, had compromat on Hillary Clinton, not Trump. And Obama knew that Putin preferred Hillary to Trump because he had compromising blackmail on her, which Putin planned on using after her, quote, likely victory. According to Gabbard, Putin had evidence of criminal acts by Hillary and blatant corruption.
Was it the war in Libya?
No, it wasn't
Was
that.
it the
Well, I don't
war
know,
in
actually.
Syria?
I don't exactly know what it is, but according to
Because I
Tulsi's
got
own
some
words,
ideas. I got some stuff on her too, but okay.
but I don't exactly know what he has. But according to Gabbard, quote, this included possible criminal acts like secret meetings with multiple organizations in exchange for supporting Secretary Clinton's campaign for the presidency. Significant increases in financing from the State Department, and she was on drugs at the same time. Listen to this.
Religious organizations in which State Department officials offered, in exchange for supporting Secretary Clinton's campaign for the presidency, significant increases in financing from the State Department. They also had documents that showed the patronage of the State Department to State Department employees who would go and support Hillary Clinton's presidential campaign. There were high-level DNC emails that detailed evidence of Hillary's, quote, psycho-emotional problems, uncontrolled fits of anger, aggression, and cheerfulness, and that then Secretary Clinton was allegedly on a daily regimen of heavy tranquilizers.
What?
Uncontrolled fits of cheerfulness?
I don't, yeah. She's just so infectiously cheerful, is Hillary Clinton. It's just hard
I
to.
need some of that.
I'm going to shoot you with a tranquilizer and see if that works. But these are high-level DNC emails that she says that detailed evidence of Hillary's psycho-emotional problems, fits of anger, aggression, cheerfulness, and that she was on a regimen of heavy tranquilizers. Okay. All of this being kept from us, of course, and so now it only takes Tulsi Gabbard and D&I to release it now, all of these years later. Unbelievable. We're going to talk about Epstein in a moment. Congressman Thomas Massie is going to join us from Washington, D.C. He just got off the floor. He's involved in votes. They're trying not to vote on this Epstein files thing, though. They're not happy with him. Of course, Speaker Johnson says, I don't know what Massie's problem is. He's like, he wants transparency. He wants what's good for America.
I gave him a week off.
I didn't sign up for this.
Go tend to your peaches. Stop telling America what's actually happening.
Jesus. Mike Johnson, little troll. All right, we'll talk about that in a moment. But first, we want to tell you about this. If you've tried store-bought healthy breads and bagels in the past, you know that they taste like cardboard. You know what they are. Remember the old school food pyramid? Carbs were the heroes. That's why everyone got fat. These days, it's all about protein, and bread's been put on the naughty list. So when the artisan bakers over at Royo sent us their variety box of healthy breads and bagels, we fully expected, these are going to be dry, these are going to be boring. I could probably re-shingle my roof with these things. Basically cardboard, but we were wrong. Kids have been eating them like crazy. They're delicious. They taste amazing. You have to try these. Here's the best part. Everything is baked fresh daily. Super clean, minimal ingredients, low in carbs, high in fiber and protein. Some of these products have 2 net carbs in them, keeping you look summer ready. That's how I got my bikini body. Mm-hmm. Royo breads are so good, you'll forget they're healthier. And I got you 20% off. Go to eatroyo, ROYO.com. Use my promo code REDACTED for 20% off. That's promo code REDACTED at eatroyo, ROYO.com. Get 20% off your order. Here's our bag. It's half gone because the kids have been eating it this morning.
Yeah.
These are the everything bagels. No, these are the super seed bagels. We have the everything bagels, which are delicious as well. So they are quite delicious. All right. Let's talk about this, shall we? Let me pull up my notes here and let me know where you guys are joining us from. By the way, in the comments, let us know if you have any questions for Congressman Massie. He loves social media, and he loves He loves our show. So at least because you guys aren't jackasses.
People are a little harder on him on X than us. So sometimes he posts, I'm going to be on Redacted with Natalie and Clayton. And boy, the way some people talk to him without respect, I want to smack him upside the head.
Yeah.
I feel
you have a problem with Massie? Come here. We're gonna talk to me.
Right. And so then I'm tagged on these things, and they say some mean things, and I don't like it. So
yeah, you're upsetting my wife.
You're hurting my feelings. Don't be mean to him.
Let's get into it. So it seems that President Donald Trump is scrambling to distance himself from the Jeffrey Epstein scandal after his administration declared the case closed last week. Nothing to see here. That certainly didn't go well on the internet. Suddenly, the client list that was on Pam Bondi's desk doesn't exist anymore. It's not there. No client list, no accountability, no further disclosures. Don't worry about it. Congressman Thomas Massie isn't sitting by and taking the official line. He says Americans deserve transparency. If the DOJ won't release it, then he'll compel them to release it. He's introduced legislation to force their hand on this. But Speaker Mike Johnson wasn't happy with you, sir. We'll get to you in a second. I want to play a little here of Speaker Mike Johnson, who name dropped you. Watch.
And some people, I try to protect them from themselves, you know. They kick and scream and bite their own colleagues. Some people seem to enjoy in trying to inflict political pain on their own teammates. I'm not going to address anybody individually, but I'll tell you that some here are much more frustrated than others. There's a small, tiny handful, but one in particular who's given me lots of consternation. I don't understand. I don't understand Thomas Massie's motivation. I really don't. I don't know how his mind works. I don't know what he's thinking. I try to follow Ronald Reagan's 11th commandment.
Okay, so he doesn't understand it. Congressman Thomas Massie joins us now. Congressman, great to see you. What do you think Speaker Johnson is struggling with, trying to understand your motivation for transparency?
Such an enigma, sir. Such an enigma.
Well, you missed the part where he said, "Bless his heart." I would like to bless his heart as well. And by the way, when we post about you on the interwebs, and you get the hate from my followers, we call that secondhand hate. It's still just as hateful, but
we welcome it.
Anyway,
we love it.
Oh, don't worry. I put a curse on every single one of them.
Yeah, don't worry about it.
Okay, good.
So this legislation, trying to really force Congress's hand. It doesn't seem like we're getting any movement from the DOJ on this. Maybe a little bit. Now they're going to go interview Ghislaine Maxwell behind bars. Who knows what's happening? What does your legislation aim to do? How many co-sponsors do you have? And do you think Speaker Johnson will bring it up for a vote before vacation time?
Great questions. Let me unpack it all. There's a parliamentary method here in the House to force a vote on the floor of the House. You can go around the committees if they won't take it up. You can even go around the Speaker if he won't take it up. But it's a pretty high bar. You have to get 218 of your colleagues to sign what's called a discharge petition. But the bill that you bring up has to be in the hopper for at least 7 legislative days. Well, guess what? I put my bill in the hopper, and 6 legislative days later, Speaker Johnson says we're going on recess for 5 weeks. They also did something else. Mine is a piece of binding legislation. It will have the force of law. To sort of kind of cut me off at the pass, they introduced a non-binding resolution that wouldn't really force anything, but it would give political cover to my colleagues. They voted for that in the Rules Committee, but even that they wouldn't bring to the floor of the House. The non-binding resolution, pretty please would you release the documents resolution, they wouldn't even bring to the floor of the House because they think if we stick our heads in the sand, this issue will go away during August recess. I don't think it's going to go away. So my resolution calls up a bill that will have the force of law if we can pass it. It would also have to pass the Senate. That's one downside, but that's the only way that you can make it binding on the president. It calls up legislation that protects the victims. It keeps child porn from being released, but it doesn't give you an excuse. It doesn't allow you to withhold documents simply because they're embarrassing. It specifically says that. And we've got a list of about 12 things in my document, or in my bill, that you have to release. And some of these we know exist. So for instance, any kind of plea bargains, any documentation behind the plea bargains, where if there were some victims who were paid off, we don't need to know who the victim was. We need to know who paid to keep from going to court and being convicted. So there are things we know exist that the public doesn't have access to that my bill would give access to. And I think it's important we pass that. And here's why. Listen, people elected Donald Trump, people who had never voted before, and people who had voted maybe a decade ago and had quit voting, decided to come back out and elect Donald Trump, give us the majority in the House, give us the majority in the Senate, because they thought, with this combination of people, we can get to that elite set of people who are so rich and powerful, they operate beyond the law. They operate beyond the reach of the Department of Justice. And these people, the voters were apathetic, that sort of class of people never got touched, and they thought that, that through things like the Epstein files and others, the Epstein files, by the way, are sort of symbolic of this, this contract that we had with the people when they elected Trump and us. They thought if they put us in here that this stuff would get released. It's not getting released. And I think it's going to cost us in the midterms because people will become apathetic again. They'll say, we elected President Trump, we gave him a majority in the House and the Senate, and they couldn't even release evidence of an underage sex trafficking ring. They couldn't even bring themselves to release that. I thought we were the party of family values, and I guess we're not. So that's where we're at. One of the questions that I get in some of the hateful comments there, but it's a fair question too, is Congressman Massie, you haven't said anything for 4.5 years. What about when Biden was president or the first 6 months of Trump's presidency? Why didn't you say something sooner? Well, I'm tired of replying to those posts and putting up the tweets that I did in 2022 and 2024. I did say things about this, but I had one wrong assumption. I thought that other people in the House of Representatives were sincere, like on the Oversight Committee or elsewhere, in their efforts to get these Epstein files released. It turns out they weren't that sincere. It turns out nobody was going to introduce this legislation. Another thing happened that made it sort of an opportunity for me to introduce this legislation. Politics is the art of what is doable. And it wasn't doable when Biden was president. I'll be honest, there are a few Democrats who sincerely want to know what's in the Epstein files, but most of them are doing it because Biden's no longer president. And I don't care how they get to the foot of the cross, but they got to the foot of the cross on this one. They all say they're going to sign it. That makes it politically possible when you have enough Democrats and enough Republicans who will get you to 218 signatures and force this vote. That did not exist a year ago. It exists now. I recognize the opportunity. From my time on the Rules Committee, I knew how to draft this resolution and force it to the floor. And so that's what I've done, and that's how we got here.
Well, you bring up investigative committees, and in the last 4 years during the Biden administration, we got some very good investigations around the COVID pandemic, around government censorship, around Hunter Biden's corruption. So Congress has been able to look into things when there is an appetite. And when we see now that there's no appetite for this, even though their constituents want it, it's very curious. So maybe a procedural question. Do you have no power to subpoena witnesses without a formal committee? Because the Justice Department seems very incurious who funded Epstein, who gave him apartments. We know that it had a lot to do with Lex Wessner, the Victoria's Secret owner. Could you talk to him without a formal committee?
Good question. And by the way, I was chairman of a subcommittee in Judiciary, and I held hearings on COVID, and I compelled witnesses to show up, and we deposed them, and found out that Peter Marks was the dirty guy at the FDA that forced the approval of the vaccines without all the scientific processes. And thank goodness Bobby Kennedy got in there, and Peter Marks is no longer there near the top of the FDA. So that was one thing, good thing that came out of one of the investigations that I did. As it stands right now, you actually have to get Mike Johnson's attorneys to approve a subpoena. So, you know, you would think.
Good luck with that. He's taken nearly $1 million from AIPAC and the Israel lobby. Like, do you? Good luck with that.
No, but play this out as if we were going to. Yeah, let's hear what this would be like.
Yeah, so
that's it. It would stop there.
It would stop with Mike Johnson's attorneys. They would likely say, we're not going to let you issue this subpoena. But, I mean, with enough members of the House, you could force that. And then somebody could take the Fifth, for instance. That's the unique thing about the Epstein files. There's so many documents. We're not going to have to rely on witnesses who could claim the Fifth. That stuff exists. Let's get it and let's look at it. And you could subpoena those documents. You could force those documents to show up. But then what happens is the White House goes to court and they claim executive privilege. So what you really need is what I've done. If you want an ironclad way of getting the documents, is you have to pass legislation that has the force of law, which means it has to pass the House and the Senate. Now, the president could veto it, but can you imagine the president trying to veto a bill that says that he has to release the Epstein files, especially in the face of...
actually. Unfortunately, now I can imagine that.
Well, imagine the next step. It goes back to both chambers where you're going to override it because you're going to get more than 2/3 of the vote. By the way, I am sweating because I ran over here after votes. We just voted on some spending bills that I voted no on, and I ran over here to join you. So if people see that I'm sweating, it's because it's about 500 yards from the Capitol to here.
You're in the swamp.
Well, you can see how
you're
far
literally, if people haven't been in D.C., you have to realize
where I ran
how.
from.
Thank you for doing that for us, though.
People in our chat like Summer Massie. They're calling you. They look like relaxed Summer Massie. Is what they're
summer
saying.
suit.
Well, I have to tell you something. I woke up to a text from my mom this morning. She saw me on TV, and she told me to trim the beard and cut the hair. I'm looking like a hobo, and that was hard. That was tough love from my mom this morning. That's the text I woke up to.
I send those exact same texts to my son.
Yeah. Miles, comb your hair. We'll get you out of here on this, Congressman. I mean, what are you hoping will happen now if you know, we're going to go into recess, you're not going to get this vote. It seems like Congress wants these things released unless they're on the take somehow. Do you think you'll have the numbers? You'll think you'll have the hundreds of members of Congress that will support this to release these files?
So that's a great question. So we're going to go on recess. 6 legislative days have elapsed since I introduced this resolution to call up my bill. I'll need 7 legislative days. There will actually be a few legislative days during the August recess where, in order to keep Trump from making recess appointments, the Republican majority in the House and the Senate actually convene every 4 or 5 days, gavel in and gavel back out. And that's to keep him from making recess appointments. I think that's an extraordinary story that's not been talked about here, because he could completely fill his cabinet if we would actually go on August recess. He could finish filling out all those spots. But because the House and the Senate do that, we will accomplish 7 legislative days. My resolution will ripen. And so but members have to be physically present to sign the discharge petition. That means it'll be the first week in September when they can come back and sign the discharge petition. I imagine I will get every Democrat. Again, my co-sponsor of this bill, Ro Khanna, is very sincere in wanting to have these files out. I am not going to vouch for the sincerity of the rest of the Democrats, okay? But they're going to sign this discharge petition. So the question is, how many Republicans do you need? I need myself and 5 others. Although I could not yet collect signatures on this resolution that calls up the bill, I started collecting co-sponsors to indicate sort of how much support we have. And right now I have more Republican co-sponsors than Democrat co-sponsors. I've got about 20 sponsors altogether, and I believe 12 of those are Republican. And most of those have every intention of signing the discharge petition, since they've already sponsored the underlying legislation that would be brought up by the discharge petition. So we've got the numbers. Here's the
House
thing.
members only, or this is a dumb question, but senators don't.
Not a dumb question. It's House members only.
Okay. I'm just asking because if we can call our elected representatives, call your House representative then.
Yeah, and tell them you want their name on the Massie legislation, Massie-Ro-Khanna legislation. Yes. Do it.
Ask them to co-sponsor it. If they decline to co-sponsor it, tell them to absolutely sign the discharge petition when they get back from August recess. Each of you only has one U.S. representative. You can call the switchboard and ask to be transferred to that U.S. representative. There is companion legislation being worked on right now in the Senate. I don't want to say who the senators' names are who will be introducing that, but they're going to introduce the exact mirror of my legislation so that as soon as it passes the House, it could be brought up in the Senate. And but that's what we need. We need 218 signatures when we get back. That'll force the vote. And here's what I want your listeners to know. At the beginning of Congress, of every Congress, we adopt a rules package and we elect a speaker. We elected Mike Johnson as speaker, and there was although I was the one Republican who didn't vote for him, and we voted for a rules package that enables this procedure called a discharge petition. But with a majority vote of the House, they can deprive any member of the discharge petition by temporarily changing the rules on any given day. And I anticipate that the Speaker may try to change the rules and remove this parliamentary procedure from the rule book, at least for the purposes of me submitting this Epstein discharge petition. But he can't do that by himself. He has to have 218 votes to change the rules. If that's what he does, or makes a motion to table, let's say they want to table my resolution. If they do that, that becomes the Epstein vote. If they introduce something to take the Epstein vote off the table, that is the vote where you need to hold your representative accountable. If they vote to change the rules so that they don't have to vote on the Epstein resolution, that becomes the vote that you need to hold them to task on.
Disgusting. Can you imagine the lengths they would go to keep this hidden? Unbelievable. I'm not surprised by it at all, but this is so disgusting. A lot of people in the chat are wondering if you will head up Elon Musk's America Party. So sick of the Uniparty. Would you, if asked to serve, would you serve on the America Party, sir?
Well, I wouldn't say never about anything, okay? And I am appreciative to have Elon's support in my own fight right now. The Republican Party has, and this is part of the punishment I'm getting for introducing this Epstein resolution, which is ironic, but the Republican, it's called MAGA Inc. It's not real MAGA. It's some grifters over at the White House that have got control of Republican money. They've spent $1.8 million against me, and they're running ads right now. And part of it is because I do things like the Epstein, the discharge petition. So right now, I'm in the fight of my life in a Republican primary. I don't have time to think about a third party. I'm trying to win my party's nomination and come back here. And if I'm the only voice or the only person who's willing to introduce a discharge petition to force the House to vote on this, then so be it.
All right. Well, bless your heart.
Bless your heart, Congressman.
Thanks. Wait, I know you mean that differently than Mike Johnson did. So
yes, I do.
Yes, we do.
Okay.
Yes, I do.
It's all in the intonation.
It is. It's like the way teenagers say bruh. I don't mean it like bruh. I mean it like bruh.
Yeah. Now we have teenagers. We know how teenagers talk. That's why we're so hip.
Bless your heart like bruh.
Congressman, great to see you. No more running around over there. Thank you for what you're doing. And we come back as soon. We'd love to have you back whenever, anytime, and keep us in the loop on all of this. Thanks, Congressman.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me on, guys.
You bet. Great to see you. All right, coming up, former CIA whistleblower John Kiriakou is going to be joining us because what are we seeing in Ukraine happening right now? Is this another coup? Thousands of people protesting Zelensky, but I smell a rat. I don't know. We'll get John's take on all of this because they're fed up with Zelensky, but is this a color revolution? It's made to look like they're fed up with Zelensky and they're going to try to install someone else who's another Western puppet? I don't know. We'll talk about that in just a moment. But first... If you've been seriously injured, your case could be worth millions, and you should know exactly what your rights are. That's why I want to tell you about Morgan & Morgan. They're America's largest injury law firm with over 1,000 attorneys working in all 50 states. And unlike a lot of firms that settle quickly, Morgan & Morgan doesn't take lowball offers from insurance companies. Just in the past few months, they won $12 million in Florida when the insurance company offered only $350,000. And in New York, they secured $6.8 million on a case where the offer was just $275,000. And the best part, it's absolutely free unless you win. Insurance companies try to pay out as little as possible. Morgan & Morgan fights to get you more if you become their client. It only takes a few minutes to see if you have a case, and you can do it right from your phone. It's that easy. You can visit forthepeople.com/redacted, or you can click the link in the description to get started. All right. Well, are we watching another CIA-backed coup in Ukraine, a repeat of the Maidan coup back in 2014 that was led by the CIA to install a puppet Western government in Ukraine? Now, over the past few days, protests have been erupting across the city in Kiev and multiple cities around Ukraine against Zelensky, pushing for him to step down. Of course, we've seen protests around these goon armies going around, the conscription armies grabbing young men off the street, throwing them into the vans and taking them to the front lines to be killed. John Kiriakou is a former CIA whistleblower. He knows all about CIA-backed coups. He's been blowing the whistle on the CIA for a long time. And, of course, the Obama administration went after him for telling the truth. John, great to see you again. Welcome back to the show.
Uh-oh.
Oh, he's muted. Oh, John. Oh,
unhit.
Yeah, John, can you unmute?
Sorry, thank you. Sorry about that.
There you go. Take two.
Gotcha.
I was just saying, thanks for having me. And how great is Thomas Massie? We need 435 people in the House of Representatives just like him.
Agreed.
100%.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Go grow one in your home state, guys.
Seriously. I mean, they don't make them like that. There's like very few. There's just like a handful. I can count on one hand.
He's a special member.
True enough. True enough. Well, great to see you. I'm sorry we had the muting issue a second ago. But so, John, take this. What are we seeing in Ukraine right now? I mean, on the surface, when we see images of protests in the street, immediately I have to wonder what the hell's happening here. Who's behind it? Who's funding it? But this is Zelensky we're talking about, one of the great rats of the world right now. So when I smell a rat, I'm probably smelling Zelensky.
Yeah.
But is there something more nefarious at play here based on your CIA experience?
Well, you know, a year ago, I would have said, oh, probably not. This is probably something that's happening organically. But a year later, I would have to say that if I were to bet money, I would bet money that something is afoot at the CIA. And here's why. It seems to me that the CIA has well proven that we just simply cannot trust it, right? There really is a deep state. We've had this conversation already. The deep state is not just real, but it is nefarious. It does things knowing that it doesn't have to answer to anybody, especially to the American people. And if the deep state doesn't trust Donald Trump and Donald Trump's commitment to continuing this war, then how much of a leap of logic is it to conclude that the CIA is trying to do as much as it can on its own before Donald Trump wrecks things for them? And so I would have to say, yeah, if I were to bet money, I would say that the CIA probably has something to do with what we're seeing unfolding in Ukraine right now. The war's not going well. The CIA doesn't think it can trust Donald Trump because he made this commitment to the American people during the campaign that he was going to end this war, and it's not in the CIA's interest to end this war.
So
at the heart of it, yeah.
Right. And so the CIA then would be working underneath the president without his knowledge in this scenario.
Undermining him.
Undermining the president, whereas it is my belief that the CIA-backed coup in 2014 was with the full knowledge of the Obama White House. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm. Agree and agree. Yes. Yes. The CIA chooses the presidents that it wants to do business with. Okay. I think I said this on the show before, that one of the things that the CIA really loves is when a newly elected president does not have intelligence or foreign policy experience, because then they can mold that president into the kind of president that they want. That's what they did with Barack Obama. Remember, Barack Obama's sum total of experience was 2 years in the Senate. That was it. So the day after the election, when the president-elect is authorized to receive a PDB briefing, a president's daily briefing, and they go in there and they say, Mr. President-elect, wait until you see the cool things that we're doing all around the world. Normally, they've hooked him. They couldn't hook Donald Trump. Donald Trump doesn't care about the cool things that they're doing in the world, because Donald Trump's experience has been that the CIA essentially tried to launch a coup against him after the 2016 election. And so if they can't trust Donald Trump in Ukraine, then they go it alone and try to get whatever it is that they want done to be done before Donald Trump can do something about it.
But Trump is lagging on his promise to end the war in Ukraine. There's this week peace talks between Russia and Ukraine, and the United States is not even a party to it. So is it possible, is there any plausible scenario, this may be far afield, that President Trump is not a fan of Zelensky and the peace negotiations are not going well and the United States have stepped back from it while still providing weapons to only one side? Is it possible that the CIA might replace Zelensky at the behest of the Trump administration?
Oh, yeah, that's always a possibility. Yes. My guess is that it wouldn't be so crude as it would have been, let's say, in 1963 with the president of South Vietnam, where we just put a bullet in his head and chose somebody else to be the president of South Vietnam. No, I think in this day and age, the station chief and the ambassador together would go to Zelensky and say, it's time for you to go. Pack your things. You're moving to London or Dubai or wherever it is he wants to go. I think that's how it would happen. And I think, frankly, the only reason that hasn't happened yet is that there's been some unexpected or unanticipated pushback from Vladimir Putin. We were all under the impression that Putin supported Trump's call for an end to the war, and that what we would end up seeing was Donald Trump making a couple of semi-belligerent statements and forcing the two sides to the negotiating table, and that there would be some territorial loss for the Ukrainians, as we've all predicted, and then everybody would go on to live happily ever after. But when Donald Trump proposed exactly that, there was pushback from Putin, and it surprised everybody. And I'm wondering now that Putin has access to, let's say, North Korean troops, or Chinese volunteers or others, Iranians we've even heard, that maybe he's not in such a hurry to end this thing anyway. He made a statement a couple of weeks ago saying that that the Russians have a claim to all of Crimea. Okay, so let's talk about that across the table from one another. It doesn't really have to be settled on the battlefield. So we'll wait and see.
Do you think that, well, first of all, how corrupt is Zelensky? And second question, who do you think they'll replace him with? I mean, it seems like his days have been numbered for like a year, 2 years now.
Yeah.
Is it Zelensky? Are they going to stick somebody in arguably just as bad? What do you think is going to happen here?
Well, see, this is the problem with Ukraine. First of all, this isn't John saying it. This is the United Nations saying it, that Ukraine is one of the most corrupt countries in the world, and it is by far the most corrupt country in Europe. So, yeah, corruption is endemic. Nothing can be done about it in the short term. Even a war of national survival did not stop Ukrainians from pilfering the war effort and stealing money and weapons and selling them on the black market and enriching themselves. The smart money is probably Zelensky. We could even say, that there is some black horse military leader, a 3- or 4-star general, maybe the head of the intelligence service, that the CIA is wanting to work with at a higher level. But Zelensky is probably where the smart money is right now.
I feel badly watching those images of these anti-corruption protests because these people really have no power whatsoever. I mean, the people who pull the strings in their government are not visible, and they can't even vote themselves out of war because Zelensky continues to put himself into power. So what could possibly come of this? Like, look at it looks to me, anytime you see a protest, right? Protests are usually well-intentioned, if misinformed. What could they possibly accomplish?
Nothing, frankly. And you said something in the intro that I think was very important. Anybody participating in a demonstration in Ukraine right now is in real danger of being snatched up off the street with no notice and sent to the front to fight the Russians. That is an untenable policy. Untenable. Yeah. And so the Ukrainians are going to have to sue for peace at some point. The Americans, the Poles, the French even can't keep supplying Ukraine with weapons and systems and ammunition forever. You know, we've tried that before. We've had 20 and 15-year wars. We don't win them. And eventually the population moves on. And I think we're already seeing that in Ukraine. The population is moving on. It's time to end this thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see what happens next. I think he's in the death spiral now, but that's when people do really dangerous. That's when people are really dangerous, when their backs are up against the wall. We'll see if these peace talks render anything. John Kiriakou, always great to see you. Check out many of his great books, of course, on Amazon. You can check out The Convenient Terrorist, 2 whistleblower stories of torture, terror, secret wars, and CIA lies, among your other works as well. John, great to see you. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Such a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Thanks. I appreciate it, John. All right. Coming up, we're going to talk about Colbert being canceled, among other things, because The View is melting down over this idea that, oh my God, CBS would cancel this horrible late night show that, you know, really is just a mouthpiece of the
DNC talking points.
Why
don't you want that in a comedic form?
Biopharmaceutical complex, all of that.
You know what I was just thinking, though, just one more thing about Ukraine. Those soldiers, at least, if they're sent to the battlefield, Russia drops pamphlets and says, you can surrender, this is how. They are then taken into Russia, and they can survive, right? The Israelis are dropping pamphlets like this, sending texts, get out of there, we're going to take over your city, we're going to take over your neighborhood in Gaza, but there's really nowhere they can go. They cannot go into Israel. They literally have nowhere to go. When they go to these border crossings, they're shot at.
They could pay $5,000 and go across the Rafah border crossing into Egypt.
Oh, yeah, where are they going to get that, right?
Yeah, and $5,000.
So it's a completely different situation. So at least when you see that, you know, we hear our reporting shows that surrender is a safe bet to Russia, but it is not to Israel. So I think it's worth keeping that in mind.
All right, we're going to talk about a couple of other stories here in just a moment. We're going to tell you about the UK doing something crazy with pubs, as well as Candace Owens battling the Macrons. Yes, a lawsuit just filed. We'll talk about that in a moment. But first, if you suffer from daily pain, please listen closely. And by the way, our audience has had incredible response from this. So just pay attention. If you suffer from chronic pain, the tides are turning. It's no secret that Big Pharma isn't interested in your relief. They want you hooked on pain pills forever, profiting billions in the process. Their motives have been unmasked, and a natural pain solution has taken hold throughout the United States. That solution is named Conolidine, and it may be your ticket to a life without pain. Chances are you've already heard someone talking about Conolidine, as it's changed the lives of hundreds of thousands of Americans. Over 2 million bottles were shipped last year alone. Why is it so popular? It's drug-free. It's been studied for 14 years, and it gives you pain pill level relief without the side effects, grogginess, or risk of addiction. No synthetic pills, no injections, no expensive doctor visits. In fact, it is one-tenth the cost of traditional pain management. Scientists are calling Conolidine nature's morphine, and it's the only substance ever proven to activate your body's natural pain molecules. I've had people email me who watch this show and just wanted to thank us. Don't thank us. Thank the people that created it. This means you could be 7 short days away from life without pain just by trying it. Here's the deal. Until midnight, you can try it risk-free for 90 days for just $1 daily. No subscriptions, no gimmicks, just honest, powerful relief. So try it right now, okay? Try Conolidine for less than $1 per day. Just go to trycono.com/redacted. That's trycono.com/redacted. 100% drug-free Conolidine. Break free from Big Pharma. You have nothing to lose but your pain. And again, try it for less than $1 a day for a limited time. All right, let's talk about, we're going to get to Colbert in a second, but I want to talk about what's going on in the UK.
Oh.
Can you tell us about this? Because this is crazy.
You threw me a curveball.
The UK government.
Yes, I can. Okay. Well, the UK government is trying to crack down on pub talk. You know, all that extremist bollocks that you talk over a pint? How was that?
That was pretty good.
Extreme. It's total bollocks. Well, that is dangerous under the new employment rights bill. Critics are calling this the banter ban. So British pub owners could be held liable for offensive or harassing comments made by customers. Now, I ask you, have you ever been around someone who's drunk? How successful are you at telling them to be reasonable in their speech when you're dealing with a drunk person? This is literally what the UK wants to police. It means that if someone's at a bar and makes a politically incorrect joke, the landlord would face consequences. Not the drunk guy, but the landlord. Now, how are you going to control drunk people, I wonder? My father owns a bar.
Are they going to like...
Go ahead. Yeah.
I was going to say, are they going to like take a vote? Like, okay, somebody said that, raise your hand if you were offended. And if one person raises their hand, that's where it goes. Like,
well, no, because it's even if one of your own employees. So in this scenario, someone takes a job as a bartender and then hears an off-color joke and they report that they're offended by it. Then the landlord, it only takes one offended employee. So how the heck are you going to know how to only hire people who don't get offended, right? And who in this expectation, who thinks that they are not going to be offended by drunk people? Who would go into that scenario?
That's a great way to take out your competition. Just go over there and offend a bunch of people and get that place shut down, and then you're the only bar in town.
Brilliant.
There we go. So my dad...
So the Bull and Moose pub across the street, let's all go over there and say some off-color stuff, and then they'll be held liable and be shut down, and then, you know...
So my dad owns one of the only country line dancing bars in the San Francisco Bay Area, and another one is opening, and they're quite worried about it. So all you'd have to do is go over there and be a drunk bastard.
Yeah.
There you go. Out of business.
Ray Lynch in our chat room on YouTube says that's where the American Revolution started, in the pubs. It did.
Yeah.
All throughout Philadelphia.
Yeah,
I mean, you know, that's where founding fathers would sit on every morning and have a hard cider and talk politics. That's where the revolution began.
Yeah. So, well, I mean, yes, literally. There's a whole scene in Les Miserables about it. It's like, this is where we start revolutions.
Yeah. Go ahead, Philip.
This is dumb. Like, this is one of the dumbest things I think I've heard any government come up with. Like, if I was putting together a list of the stupidest things the government has tried to push, this is on it. Because seriously?
It's like kind of like social media it's almost like having the social media platforms be responsible for someone's tweet, right? I mean, it's in many ways it's the same thing in a digital form, but now you've got a pub where that's the platform. The pub is the platform. And so what is it, the idea that you've sort of platformed a few drunk people that have made some off-color anti-Muslim remarks about immigration in your city? Shut them down.
But is it just because pubs is short for public house? It's a public place. So that's the thing. That's slightly different between a tweet, because that's a private company hosting these things. This is just if they're going to make... But where but
the pub is still private.
So
it's still it's on a public square.
Well,
but let's make a distinction here. We're focusing on the pub, but these rules will also apply in a Starbucks, in a department store, in a
football stadium.
It's ridiculous.
In what they call a garage, right? It will be anywhere that you are offended. It's the business owner will be responsible for that.
Well, like I said, a football stadium. So if one team is offended because somebody's cheering for the other team, does that,
That's a good point.
Look at all the places
this is why these morons, they have nothing better to do. You've literally got, in the UK, your country is collapsing under the weight of open borders. The pensioners don't have pensions anymore because you've given the money away to millions of illegal immigrants. But you're worried about people being offensive at a pub or a Starbucks? It's crazy.
Yes. Yeah, so let us know what you think of this. I mean, what the supporters are saying is that this is about workplace safety. So we're telling employees that wherever you go, you have the right to not be offended, which is not true. It's not one of our human rights, but they're trying to make it one. And in reality, it's preemptive strike on free speech.
I know I've brought it up before, but this is like... Stuff like this, it's like, if anybody hasn't read the book Fahrenheit 451 by Ray Bradbury, I mean, that's like what this is. Like a society that is so afraid to offend anybody that they remove all art, all books, basically they remove anything. There's only like government controlled like propaganda. That's all you can read. That in the Bible in Fahrenheit 451. That's it. And so that's what happens when you try so hard to make sure nobody gets offended. You can't do anything.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like
and that's you don't have to read.
Let David finish.
Well, I was going to say it's subjective. So it's like you always have to go to the weakest person among them is the one that can close the whole thing down. So it's like, because it's subjective. It's a subjective thing. One thing that would offend me wouldn't offend you.
Right. And who's going to be the police of it? Well, I mean, this is like, you wouldn't even have to read Fahrenheit 451. You could just literally look at Mao's China. It's exactly what they did, banning all forms of entertainment, all forms of contradictory speech, music, everything. The only thing you were allowed to read if you wanted entertainment was the teachings of Mao. So that's where you're heading with this type of behavior.
How are you going to have comedy? How are you going to make, right? Like, think of Faulty Towers, some of your favorite English.
Oh, they banned,
you could
Fawlty
not
Towers.
have anybody on that production set because somebody's going to find those jokes offensive, and then you literally have nothing, right? So
then you're just going to have to revert back to slapstick.
Yeah,
you're going to have to revert back to slapstick comedy.
I mean, as much as I don't consider it art at all, like the guy that nailed the cheese to the wall as like an art piece, like is that like, if that offends vegans? Now is that art house like in trouble?
Yeah.
You know,
I guess museums are now in trouble. I mean, this is, thank God we live in America. I thank my lucky stars. Anyway, let us know your thoughts on that. Speaking of Europe, let's talk about this. Well, the Macrons are now suing friend of the show, Candace Owens, over what they say are false claims that the French president's wife is a man. So here is the report out of the Independent. I just want you to pay attention to how the Independent, boy, do they bend over backwards to kiss
podcaster.
To kiss the ass of the Macrons. Emmanuel Macron and Brigitte Macron sue far-right podcaster Candace Owens over false claims that French president's wife is a man. They saying that the influencer's relentless and unjustified smear campaign falsely accusing Brigitte of being born a man. 219-page defamation complaint was filed in Delaware State Court today, accuses Owens of proliferating demonstrably false claims across her platforms, including an 8-part podcast series on a social media designed to feed a frenzied fan base in pursuit of fame. So that's the only reason she was doing it, was just to feed a frenzied fan base? Okay. They say in this lawsuit, the false claims have subjected the Macrons to a campaign of global humiliation, turning their lives into fodder for profit-driven lies, the complaint says. Owens has dissected their appearance, their marriage, their friends, their family, their personal history, twisting it all into a grotesque narrative designed to inflame and degrade, the complaint alleges. Yeah, a 22-count complaint filed in Superior Court seeks damages against the Owens and her companies, including punitive damages. No word on the amount, though. Apparently, Brigitte Macron was previously awarded £6,000 in damages last year after 2 far-right influencers falsely accused her of being a transgender woman. So,
but
they better
those
hope
cases were overturned, so they omit that. That's interesting.
No, this Independent piece is like literally kissing the ass of the Macrons. The whole piece is like kissing the ass of the Macrons.
Now, if you watched Becoming Brigitte, which I
is
did.
Candace Owens' 8-part series. Yeah.
And it's also a book by a French journalist. I'm sorry, I can't remember his name. If you have followed that at all, Candace Owens was basically begging them to sue her. The reason being is that truth is an absolute defense, and because she can ask them very specific questions, such as, is this picture you? Those kind of things. Please provide images of you pregnant. Please let me know who is this and where is this person. She mostly asks questions that lead to a conclusion that seem to indicate that Brigitte Macron was born Jean-Luc Macron, I believe is the first name. And she also is asking legitimate questions about why 39-year-old Brigitte Macron had a sexual relationship with 14-year-old Emmanuel Macron. Those things now all become relevant in a court of law. Now, it's interesting, they didn't sue her in France. She probably wouldn't have responded anyway. They sued her in Delaware, which means they will be beholden to the rules of American litigation, which means that they will have to prove it. Yeah. So maybe they can. And then they could have done this all along. So prove it. But then also one of her major claims is that she groomed him, no matter what her gender is. That he is a victim of underage sexual assault.
Yeah, he was what, 15?
He was 14 when they met, and she was 39. So this also is one of her major claims. How can they refute this? One of the things they've said many times is, no, they waited until he was 17. But then in some of their correspondence with her, they said they changed the story that he was 15. Even 15 is the age of consent in France, you perverts. And so they're saying now, no, that was just fine. So we'll see where this goes. We want legitimate proof, but I put this on X as a ballsy move, don't you think?
It is. I'm just excited. I do get it. It is a ballsy move by the Macrons. I hope that we do get through discovery. I mean, I hope that we actually get some revelations here. Because I don't think Candace is going to like back down and settle, but we don't know. I mean, I don't know if she would settle on this.
Well, and I guess
not.
France must have never heard of the Streisand effect, because I think that's going to, they just like brought a whole bunch more attention to it.
Yes, that's what's happening to Epstein, too.
If people don't know what the Streisand effect is, can you explain what that is?
Yeah, it's just like when you... Oh. Yeah, well, go ahead. Let's hear you say it. You probably say it more eloquently.
So Barbara Streisand noticed that her home was photographed by surveyors of the California coastline, and she was upset that you could see her home, even though nobody knew that it was hers. So that image had been downloaded like a dozen times total, and people didn't even know that it was her house. But then she sued to get those images removed, and then the whole world knew that that was her house. So by trying to remove it from the public eye, now millions of people know. So the Streisand effect is when you draw attention to something you want to remove from the public, and then the public sees it all the more so infinity times. That's the Streisand effect.
All right, let's talk about Stephen Colbert. I'm thrilled that Stephen Colbert got canceled. He drove The Late Show into the ground. One of the reasons I got into broadcasting as you know, at a young age, because I was obsessed with Johnny Carson, David Letterman, loved sort of the breaking down the fourth wall of television. So Stephen Colbert basically drove that show into the ground, pushing his Democrat talking points, his DNC talking points, his big pharma talking points. Remember the vaccine dance that he did? It's so painful and cringe that you can't even watch it. Well, the ladies at The View are so upset about this. They say that democracy is dead. They're warning all of us that Colbert's firing is a harbinger of things to come. Watch.
It could be financial. And I don't know that it's purely political. It could be. But my concern is if it is political, then everyone should be concerned. People on the right should be concerned. People on the left should be concerned, because it's very clear that if it is political, this is the dismantling of our democracy. This is the dismantling of our Constitution, right? And so the First Amendment is the First Amendment for a reason, and that is freedom of the press, freedom of speech, freedom to speak truth to power. If that is taken away, if the comedians are being attacked, then that means our Constitution is being dismantled. That's right. That means the very rubric of our democracy is being dismantled. And I think every single person should be really
let me ask you this question. Do we all have the right to be on broadcast television, on network television?
No.
Do we all have the right to that privilege to be on CBS? Is this in the Constitution?
Does CBS have a right because no one's watching their stuff anymore? They're involved in a multi-million-dollar lawsuit because they falsely edited the 60 Minutes interview of Kamala Harris, creatively, and President Trump sued them. Is it part of this massive settlement, the $40 million massive settlement that Stephen Colbert gets kicked off the air? Or they're just trying to save as much money as they can because they screwed up, so they had to make their bed, now they have to lie in it? I mean, that's what this is all about.
Well, where was this outrage when Tucker Carlson was pulled off the air for criticizing the Biden administration and the war in Ukraine after that happened? Where was this outrage then?
By Sonny Holston at The View?
Yeah.
I didn't see that.
I missed it. That. Maybe they were.
Did it have something to do with the Dominion lawsuit, about
right? I'm just asking
the votes in the election?
Because that there was also that happened. Yeah, I didn't see them outraged about that.
So just to be clear, just because he's not on CBS, the Tiffany network, he can go over where the hell he wants to. He can start a show like this and see how many views he gets. I would love to see that. Launch a show just like we do. I'm sure he's got like a huge staff. He said he actually admitted he's got a staff of 200 people. Our show, we have 5.
That's inexcusably bloated in the era of DIY.
Oh my God. So he's got a staff of 200 people. And okay, so now what? So he's going to leave that show. Now he can go off and do his own thing. He can try to launch his own podcast, kind of like, who was that guy? Don Lemon from CNN.
Yeah, do that. Do it.
Go off and launch your own
team up
thing.
with Don Lemon.
Yeah.
There we go.
Joy Reid. Like Joy Reid, my show had value at MSNBC, right? My show had value, but no one was watching it. Great. So then launch your own thing and see how well it does.
They could start an app and they could call it Talk Show Plus. And they could release that, and they could each do their own talk show. It'll be great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Don Lemon, Stephen Colbert, Joy Reid. They could go on Talk Show Plus, and you could download it, and you could pay them, $30 a month to watch Stephen Colbert's show and see how well he does. Like, that's democracy.
Right.
You want to talk about the democratization of broadcasting? Right now, you have, we're here you're able to watch this show for free on YouTube or Rumble or on X. It costs us a lot of money to put the show on, but you don't have to pay anything. And just about anyone can do it with a smartphone. Just with an LTE network and connection, you could just launch a show. He doesn't need 200 people. And if it really, so democracy in action would be he launches a show. All of his CBS viewers aren't watching it anymore. And they come over and they find his new show on his cell phone. And he becomes like the #1 podcaster in the world. He dethrones Joe Rogan. Mm-hmm. He dethrones Tucker Carlson.
But, liberals love this idea of wealth distribution, which is a rebuke of capitalism. So the fact that they might have lost money doesn't mean anything to liberals. They think it's a right to continue to promote shows like this because it's just something like we should all have access to with the loudest megaphone. But it isn't. I mean, look at Greg Gutfeld is beating them not only in the demographic. Now we call it the demo is 18 to 49 is the age group of viewers that advertisers want the most. So
25 to 55, yeah.
Yeah, right. And so you want this group of demographic with buying power. Gutfeld beats them not only in total viewers, but in the demo by quite a lot. And that is a much smaller show on a cable network, not even broadcast. And why is that? It's because he's a libertarian. He's willing to just call a spade a spade. He's not repeating any party talking points as far as when we do watch Gutfeld, and Clayton and I used to be on his old show, Greg Gutfeld's show, Red Eye a lot. So,
back in the day.
Yeah, way back in the day. So I also love this idea of these media elites who are rallying around Stephen Colbert, like, oh my God, you can't lose your show. This is a tragedy. In the world we're living in, where people are dragged into battle in Ukraine, people are starved and shot at in food lines in Gaza. And this is what they think deserves the full star power, is the canceling of a liberal media elite. I don't understand that at all. It seems so out of touch. And just read the room, you guys. People don't want your show. Then do something else. Find something else to do.
Well, no one cares about the palace intrigue.
Yeah, I think one thing that could help him is if he joined Jon Stewart back on Comedy Central with the Colbert Report again. Like, that would be...
Yeah. Well, I was just about to say, he was hilarious. Stephen Colbert was a great satirist. He was one of the best satirists of all time. And when he was on The Daily Show playing that character, I mean, he was fantastic. When he would go on Bill O'Reilly's show and play that character, he was great. So whenever it was like, oh, he's going to get his own talk show, but he's not going to play that character, he's just going to be Stephen, people are like, this is not going to work too well. Anyway, I'm just glad he's gone. I think it was patently unfunny. And, hey, if he wants to launch his own show, he can do that. That's a democracy.
But do you think that format is just dead? Because, like Philip talks about all the time, and our kids' generation are never going to watch a network programmed show.
Yeah, I think it's dead. I think, again, people are watching YouTube. People are watching the content that they've curated and watched. Morning television continues to grow because people are waking up. They want to see the traffic and the weather. And so they wake up and have their coffee. That continues to be a thing that people will turn on. But like nighttime shows, no one's watching that stuff anymore. That audience and demographic are aging out, just like cable news. People aren't watching cable news anymore. So, yeah, this could be like a harbinger of like the death of late night television, sadly.
Who wants to sit there and watch a 30 to hour long show with 20 pharma ads between it?
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. Anyway, let us know your thoughts on that in the comments.
But why do you think Gutfeld grows and these network shows don't?
Well, I mean, Fox News, at least on cable, is still large, and I think if you're looking at broadcast television, you see Kimmel, and you see Stephen Colbert, Fallon. I mean, they're not funny, and they're literally regurgitating the same liberal, tired talking points, and the nation has moved on. I mean, Trump won in a landslide. So if you look at like Fox News, you think, okay, at least Fox News is going to represent the Trump voter, right? And then by extension, Gutfeld gets that.
But there's also, I think that the format itself is this disdain for interviews with celebrities because people don't care anymore. Whereas in the 80s, you would like to see Dolly Parton sitting there with Leno or something like that.
Johnny Carson, yeah.
Right. Now, who gives a crap if Reese Witherspoon has something to talk about her life and tries to be funny? It just feels really inauthentic, and people don't like it and don't want it.
The thing that made Letterman so great is because Letterman couldn't stand those celebrities. And so the audience was in on the joke. Letterman was in on the joke. The people at home were in on the joke. And the celebrity that was sitting there next to Letterman was the joke. I mean, that's how Norm Macdonald described it. The person sitting next to Letterman was basically being made fun of and mocked.
Oh, watch the Madonna interview where he calls her hair a swim cap. That's one of the best. Yeah, we don't get that anymore. What were you going to say, Philip?
I was just going to say, well, like, if you think about like when the reason they're doing these, like, like with the press junkets, like the celebrities going on these shows, because they're promoting something. And so, like, if you go to, like 1989, that was the only way you were going to find out about it. It makes sense. It makes sense to do that. Show up on these shows and people are like, oh, there's a new movie coming out with, this person in it. But now they just post it on their social media. So people that care about that celebrity are already following them. They already know what's going on. So it's like just like the usefulness of shows like that has become, you've lost that part of it. So then you're just left with like crappy entertainment. I don't know, and jazz music for some reason.
Second chance in our Rumble chat says Letterman hated everyone. That's true. Tim LT Bird says Fox is controlled opposition. They still promote every rhino in Congress. Oh, that's true.
Oh, we're agreed on that.
Good luck having Massie on Fox News. That'd be anyway.
Yeah. Although again, Gutfeld seems to be less of that, and it's more let's make fun of politics in a way that's fun for everybody. I think it's a good format. He's doing a good job with that.
Yeah, I'll take some of your super chats here in a second. But first,
But first, we want to tell you about our friends over at Armra, because Armra's colostrum is nature's first whole food with over 400 bioactive ingredients and nutrients working at the cellular level to build lean muscle, accelerate recovery, and fuel performance, all without artificial stimulants or synthetic junk. Now, if you've ever been a nursing mommy, you know what colostrum is. It's the first substance that comes in before your milk, and it's exactly what your baby needs. It's basically like superfood. So Armra has found a way to harness this from cows, actually, and turn it into a supplement that helps you with your recovery, with your sleep, with all over wellness. You can get Armra right now with this special offer. You can get 30% off your first subscription order. Go to tryarmra, that's try, TRYARMRA.com/redacted to get 30% off your first order. Again, it's for strengthened immunity, hair growth, better sleep. It's just an all-around supplement. So go to their website and see what it can offer for you. One more time, you can use the code redacted. Make sure you do and receive 30% off your first subscription order. That's tryarmra.com/redacted using the code redacted.
J-Ro says, my TV took Redacted off the TV twice now. Who knows what happened there?
It's the deep state.
Yeah.
Every
Tina
time
Bailey,
we have an internet outage, we're like, deep state, men in black. Usually we don't think that's true, but it's a paranoia.
but when they control, I mean, the interviews that I've done recently that we're going to publish soon, I mean, they're absolutely jaw-dropping from whistleblowers inside the government and what they're able to do technologically now with this biopharmaceutical or the biometric, complex and everything that Palantir is doing. It's deeply, deeply disturbing. Mm-hmm. Basically ushering in a new era of another Patriot Act, basically in the United States. And so this control of our digital life is basically fully here already. Mm-hmm. Nerd says, trust Redacted, they're experts. Yeah, that's actually true. Thank you, Nerd 101. Tina Bailey, thank you. She's been a member for 8 months. Gitmo for Barry, Tina says. Go ahead, Philip.
Oh, I was going to say, they said we're experts, and I just Grim had put in our group chat when you were talking about people should go out and start their, that we have a team of 5 and people could go out and start their own podcast channel. And Grim was like, yeah, but if you're going to do it with 5, you have to have the right 5, and we're all currently taken. So
that's right.
So exactly. You'll probably have to get 20 people.
Who are we leaving out here? Aren't we 6?
I kind of discount you and I sometimes, I think. I don't know.
Do I not count?
Simon, Grim, Philip, David, me. So I guess I left you out.
Hello.
6.
Who doesn't count?
6.
And but did you say David, Philip, Simon, you, Grim? Yeah. Who?
And then Natalie.
Well, Philip hasn't added Simon officially.
I don't include myself, so it was really me. I wasn't including myself in it. But and then our Shia's on the team too. So yeah, we have a very small team here. Massie, that's why I'm so shocked. Like when I hear like people like Ben Shapiro at the Daily Wire, like he went on Joe Rogan's show a few years ago and he was like, I'm blown away how many people you have on your staff. And Joe's like, yeah, we've got like 4. And Ben's like, oh, I've got like hundreds.
Yeah.
Like, hundreds? Like what the hell? Really?
Not anymore.
Well, I don't know. Yeah. I mean, I guess if people aren't watching, you're gonna have to.
I mean, I've done some subcontract work with about years ago, but with really large productions, and a lot of the people in the production crew were talking about how much they love new media people like me. It was like they love new media people coming in because we know how to do everything, and like where they have like this guy knows how to do this one thing, and then this guy knows how to do this other thing, and it's like they'll go through the whole list and describe them like, yeah, that's all what I do. Just so they just love the new media people. So you can kind of tell how connected they are to the old school way of thinking because they'll have crews of 100 people. What would we do with 100 people?
Well, also they're all unionized. So you've got grips and key lighters and all this.
Yeah, you can't touch everything. Nerd 101 on our chat says, spend some of your fortunes on better technology, Redacted. Now, let me just explain to you.
Oh, please. You got him started.
Yeah, no, we have the best cameras. We have one of the fastest, best piece, streaming software that we have in the studio and everything. But it turns out that we've had this issue with our ISP, with our internet service provider, and so they're having to send out a tech. So it's not the tech. It's not our equipment. It's It's relying on the ISP and the internet service provider for it, unfortunately. And since we live in the Rocky Mountains, there's not a ton of options for us to be able to get that type of service, unfortunately. But they are slowly rolling this out to the Mountain West. Anyway, it's not us, it's them. I will say that. So that's really the issue.
You hurt his feelings.
Hurt my feelings.
The only thing
no,
is
you
we
didn't hurt my
just
feelings.
can't seem to get high-speed internet yet, but that's coming.
Yeah.
Once we get that,
crazy.
we're unstoppable. We're going to be
crazy.
streaming in like 10K, I think, probably.
Yeah.
10K. That's right. No, and then, we built a whole new studio, and so dialing in the lights and everything, it's not an easy thing to do, Back when I worked at Fox, though, we had multi-million-dollar studio, and they had like these robotic, they had these freaking robotic cameras, and all of that, and they just, oh my God, it's crazy. But we don't have Rupert Murdoch kind of money in here, so. Thank you guys so much for subscribing. Be a subscriber. Hope you are. It's free to subscribe, whether on X, you're watching us on YouTube, on Rumble.
I do want to take this super chat that said, Natalie, where's the proof against Obama? First of all, I want to ask you, did you read the DNI files that were released this week by Tulsi Gabbard? Also, I want to suggest that you read the book, The Plot Against the President, about how the Obama administration officials had asked for identities of Trump transition team and asked for those members to be unredacted from intelligence reports, which was proof of spying on the Trump campaign. So I ask you if you've read that book. Because if you're, flying surface and Obama says we didn't do it, but you didn't actually look into Operation Medusa, then I want to know, how much you know about that, because it's pretty clear now that they made up the Russian collusion. So I'm just pointing you towards. I mean, I can give you.
But she's raising a great question. Kay and Kieran in our chat.
Yeah.
She says, Natalie, where is the actual proof? Like, is there paperwork, documentation, specific smoking gun?
Well, when you understand, like, unclassifying certain members and people and peering deeply into people who were in the Trump transition team for the reason of figuring out things, those people usually, that it's just not usually done. So I don't mean to say to you that that's a dumb question. It's not at all, but I'm asking you to look at those unclassified documents and then look specifically into Operation Medusa and what they were able to uncover. And I think a great book about that is called The Plot Against the President, because it lays it out quite clearly. So thank you for asking that. I do want to, because I'm saying to you now that we should all sort of agree right now, because it seems pretty clear, but maybe it's not, because it takes it's a big onion to unpeel.
And the Wall Street Journal just now reporting in an exclusive that the Justice Department told Trump in May that his name is among many that are in the Epstein files, according to the Wall Street Journal. That when the Justice Department officials reviewed what Attorney General Pam Bondi called a truckload of documents related to Epstein, they discovered that Donald Trump's name appeared multiple times, according to senior administration officials, which is not surprising.
He knows that.
We know, I don't know why this is but the Wall Street Journal last week, of course, had the artist, the drawing that he had given,
Right. Yeah.
So now this is their follow-up, the Wall Street Journal. This is Rupert Murdoch's company, by the way. They, again.
This is not like a lottery where you're like, oh, I'm in there. Like, if you are in there, you know that. So this is not for the Justice Department to tell Trump. And we already know that he was an associate of Epstein. So tell us what that means. This is that's another, you're just throwing tomatoes at this point. We know that.
Yeah, it just feels like limited hangouts.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, LLC in our chat says, that's fine. Now release the Epstein files. Yeah. Even MLK's daughter said that. So, just release them. Let's find out what's in there. All right. That's going to do it for us today. Thank you guys for subscribing, being a part of our show. We'll be back here tomorrow at 4 p.m. Eastern Time. Set your alerts and all of that, and we will bring you the news of the day and cover the stories the mainstream media largely ignores tomorrow on the show. We will see you at 4 p.m. Eastern Time. Have a great night, everyone.